are back, Mike.
We are back. How
Finally.
are you? It's great to be back. How are you, Per?
I'm fantastic. My mother's turning 80 years old tomorrow, so we have been doing preparations for weeks for this.
Yes, and we're going to Spain on
Yes, on
Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
Yes, to prepare for the European Gramophone recording of the brass concertos.
And it's actually a bit.
Swedish Chamber Orchestra.
It's actually cooler in Valencia than in Härnösand today. So.
Wow, but I think it's sort of the last little hot day. This is like fantastic. This is very, very unusual. I have about 28 degrees now, and it's 9 o'clock in the evening in Sweden, and it's like sun has just gone down. It's about to get down there, and there is my beloved studio. This little thing there, this little porch there, I built myself. I'm very proud of that.
Great.
That is to protect a little bit against the huge storms that comes. For instance, when we recorded the saxophone pieces with the saxophone quartet there was not so easy.
No, but now you're protected against the howling winds.
Yes, absolutely.
What do we have? We have a release tonight, Maestro. As we always do, tomorrow on Wednesday, what will we be releasing? Could you tell us something?
Well, you see behind you there, we are.
Who are these figures?
What we are doing is the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky. And it's very interesting because it's became probably his most popular piece ever. I think the Nutcracker is probably even more than the Swan Lake.
Yeah.
And yet, it was a failure at the premiere, and he always thought that he had failed. So we have tonight also two distinguished, one psychologist and one medical doctor.
And why is that?
Because I thought also, because we had very interesting discussions last week about how are we coping with this COVID thing, and also it's like specifically musicians and Tchaikovsky in particular have this like periods when you are extremely creative and on an up, and then once you did the concert and the release comes, you get incredibly depressed. And so he was actually considered to be bipolar. He was very much up and down, and many artists are. So what I would want to talk to them about is basically maybe they can help how to cope with this, particularly in this depressing time of pandemia when we don't have any ups and downs even. We can't even do anything about it. So it would be very interesting to hear what they say. And then, of course, we have the phenomenal pianist, Roland Pöntinen.
Yes, I was just going to ask you this. Roland, his psychic seems solid as a rock, but you know him better than I do. So
I think I think he's pretty solid, actually.
Yes.
I don't think he has so much of these ups and downs. We have to ask him now.
We have to ask him. Let's bring him on while
we listen to the beginning of this arrangement that we did together.
Wow, here it comes.
Hello there, Roland. So you are here.
Hi, Christian. Hi.
Hi.
Oh.
You are on Gotland, the place where
Yes,
Ingmar Bergman has his house, and you are doing a lot of concerts there, I hear.
yes, I have some concerts here this week. Yeah, it's a wonderful environment, fantastic nature, as you know, and it's a great atmosphere here.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how does it feel now with this release? I remember that when we had just done this, and I sent you the first edit, you were sort of questioning your playing here and there, saying, "Oh, I didn't do that right. I didn't do that right. I didn't do that right." And I remember that I had exactly the completely different opinion about your playing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Actually, we managed to fix all the things that you were not happy, but I mean, I thought they were fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
You know,
Can
it's
can I
as
notice some
as a,
ups and downs maybe right here? Do
no,
you both
as a
feel ups and
transcription.
downs?
I think as a transcription, I don't know if you agree, Christian, but it's the most challenging thing we've done so far, because the music in itself is so perfect, and it's so neatly orchestrated and so on. I mean, it's one of my big favorites of Tchaikovsky, alongside some of the symphonies and so on. So I think it was a great challenge just to think to transform it to only two instruments. And then it's also kind of tricky to play as well. But I think in the end, it all turned out very fine. I think I think it's surely one of our best transcriptions by far.
Yeah, I think so. I think we have
Yeah.
really, but it was tough. I mean, it was work in progress all the time, and my God, I had to practice this fast thing so many times, so many times. It was very hard. Now, when it comes to this ups and downs, Roland, we were talking about that just before you came on here. Do you are I see you as a quite stable person. You don't get ups and downs, do you?
Oh, I think you don't see the whole picture. I mean, if you knew, Christian,
Okay,
what
Camilla
kind
knows.
of downs,
Maybe
what
we
kind
should
of
ask your
downs.
wife.
Oh yeah, I mean, she can tell me, she can tell you everything about them. The downfalls.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just getting a bit. Of course, I, as a person, feel quite stable. I'm quite. Hello. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
But of course, it's a lot of pressure to do this profession, to have this profession we have, to be.
And do you also feel when you did a concert, the post-concert syndrome, I think is the worst.
The post-concert syndrome, well, I experienced that quite heavily sometimes. I mean, you are not any good socially. You cannot talk to anyone, or maybe you're very enthusiastic and talking too much. But somehow, yeah, there's some kind of emptiness coming in after having expressed so many things on stage, and afterwards it feels, I mean, you are not miserable. You feel that you gave so much, and then it's over, and some kind of regret in that feeling. But next day, usually I'm all right again, and starting to practice to make next concert even better. You know.
Yeah.
It's like a divorce almost, or you gave so much and then it's over, right?
Yeah, it's a kind of. It's a feeling of regret that the concert and the things you've been building up, it's gone. And also the music is very evasive. It's just you play a note and then it's gone forever. I mean, it's up in the air. Of course, you can record it, but it's not the same thing to listen to recording as to hear it live.
And Tchaikovsky was, of course, the worst of all. I mean, he was getting when he wrote his Fifth Symphony, for instance, he was writing to his sponsor there, and he was writing that I've worked on this for 10 years now, and I've failed again. I feel so miserable. It's a total failure, this symphony, and the same with the fifth, with the fourth, and everything, and particularly with this Nutcracker, he was not happy himself. So
yeah, but on the other hand, the things I feel that the things that are nurturing and the things that I can learn from is not the success, it's the failure that makes you rethink your whole position as an artist. And if something's really not perfect, you immediately start to rework things in your head and try to strive for something even better. So a big success, I mean, that's fun for the moment, but it's not so creative as the failure.
You're right. And actually the thing we're going to play now is the beginning of the second one. And I remember when we were mixing this, you were talking, no, trombone is too soft, and now trombone is too loud, and my God, you're in the left channel, aren't you? And then it's like, no, you are behind me, and I was listening to all these comments and trying to accommodate. And then we waited for a week, and then I thought I found something which was good, and then I sent it to you, and you were perfectly happy.
Let us listen to yeah.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yes.
There I take off the mute. So the mute, of course, makes it a little bit sort of like this, and then when you open this, something happens.
It's crazy. It's only hits in this suite, you know. Even if you're not into classical music at all, you know every tune in there. It's like Beatles, Rubber Soul or something. It's just
he didn't like him. He didn't like this piece himself, I heard. Is that true?
It's true, yeah, he didn't like it. You mean this particular one?
Yeah, no, but the whole suite or the whole music to Nutcracker. Why didn't he like it? He thought it was too, I don't know.
I don't know. But
I know someone who can answer. We have a fantastic guest coming in.
Absolutely.
Christian, could you tell us a bit? Who is Hamid?
Yes, Hamid is a very, very interesting person. He is like a brain scientist. He knows a lot about the brain. And he has worked with rehabilitation of people with brain damages and things his whole life, and he's done a lot of the research. And he's been a very good friend of mine for a long time. And he watched me with my ups and downs very often, and he knows about that very well. So
let's ask him a bit about that.
Yes,
Here it comes.
Let's play the ups from. This is a typical Tchaikovsky up. Hello, Hamid.
Hello.
Fantastic to see you. This is like when you have seen me this happy all the time. This is Tchaikovsky at his happiest moment.
Fantastic entrance music, right?
We just talked about you, that you know so much through your work with rehabilitation of people with brain damage and your knowledge about brain, and also know about depression and apps.
Yeah, I've done some research. I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, and I've also studied fatigue syndromes. So I've been into the dynamics, and I think with discussion with Roland Pöntinen, it's interesting, this process thinking that should not be neglected. When we're talking about mental health among creative persons like conductors or people writing music. Look, a lot of them, it's analysis. You look retrospectively on Tchaikovsky, for instance, and we know that he had mood swings, and he had a lot of anxiety, and at the same time he was using alcohol. He was drinking a lot of alcohol. So to really clearly understand his mental health, he should have been out of alcohol for quite a long time to see how and if that stabilizes his mood swings. So I mean, it's it's been some sort of quest for a lot of scientists to look at different creative persons and analyzing their mental health. I mean, we know that he had depressions and anxiety, but still, using alcohol and the amount of alcohol that was used during the 19th century, it's difficult to dissect what is what in that. And of course, psychoanalysts have gone into his personal history with his mother and homosexuality, etc. So, I mean, there are a lot of loose ends, but we know that there is a clear correlation between creativity and mental health issues. Mm-hmm. Both bipolar disorder or mano-depressive diseases, schizophrenia, and we know it's very common. I read the first report around 20 years ago when they had looked on the 20th century Nobel laureates in literature, and 75% of them had mano-depressive episodes. Oh. And Hemingway is a good example of somebody who. And I think that his book, The Old Man and the Sea, it's brilliant. Where if you use the boat as the old man as a metaphor for his mind, and how he tries to catch this fish, and constantly fails, and then finally catching it, but the sharks eats it. It's a brilliant description of our mind. How it works, and especially for a person who has been very creative and maybe lacks inspiration, etc. So you end up in these ups and downs.
Yeah, and I remember many times when I was on the road, and Hamid and I have been friends for very, very long, and I was out and I have been working extremely hard. I think it would be interesting for you to describe the dopamine thing, dopamine 1 and dopamine 2, how that works, because I coming home with a lot of adrenaline. I had a fantastic concert. I'm coming home to a family where everything is flat and everything is normal, everything is going this way, and I get this post-concert syndrome. Could you talk a little bit about that?
We have to first speak a little bit and listen to the lows while we let Pia Eby in, because there are many sides here. Okay.
Welcome, Pia.
Welcome.
This is a Melancholic Tchaikovsky, and without having those two sides, he could never write this incredibly beautiful music, and also sad music. Mm-hmm. Tell me, Pia, you are an oboist, so you have experienced both this creative process and also work. Roland?
Yes.
It's a lot of noise there. So back with you.
Yeah.
Roland, I know that you have to go to do some playing now. So
Yeah.
I will leave you. I know that you're very stressed with your concerts and everything. So thank you for being here. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. You have to throw him out.
I'm trying to, but he's like Jack in the Box, who is
He's
here
like Jack in the
tonight, by the way. I have to try to throw him out again.
He's there somewhere. There we
There we
go.
go.
There we go. So Pia Eby, musician, oboe player, and nowadays psychologist.
Yes, a very much former musician, I must admit. A long time ago, I haven't played at all. So, but still, of course, I've experienced the fantastic music of Tchaikovsky. So, yeah.
Yeah, can you say a little bit about his? Do you meet a lot of musicians in your work as a psychologist?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No, no.
But creative people.
I wouldn't say. My everyday work is something very different. So, meeting musicians are mostly on a private level, since I'm still married to a musician. So I have the connection with this kind of life still. But in my work, no, I work with children and adolescents. So they're not there in this area at all. Mm.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, but you know a lot about these mood swings, of course,
Yeah,
and the mood swings of Tchaikovsky.
yeah, and I think there are some. There's one thing that Tchaikovsky has in common with all musicians at a high level, and that is that you all start playing an instrument at a very low age. You're very young, which means your professional training starts at a point where nobody else starts their professional training.
Mm.
And it makes a difference because it gives a shape to life and identity, which differs, I think.
And you mean that is that like a disadvantage as a human being?
I think it's necessary. It's
Yeah,
necessary.
of course. Yes, I know. But does it affect you? Do you mean that could be something that makes these musicians bipolar or what?
No, but at least it gives some kind of sensitivity, because if your profession is so closely connected to your identity, any mistake will have a greater effect than otherwise.
That's very interesting. I would just want to reconnect to Hamid and Christian. You were talking about, Christian, your very high dopamine levels, and Hamid seems to know something about this post-concert, pre-concert, Maestro Lindberg. What do you have to say about that?
No, I mean, one thing is you have to be very disciplined to be a musician. So through discipline, you develop mental control also, which should not be neglected. Some people have it inherited, but some people acquire it through experience. So you have some sort of mental control over your emotions and your cognitive domains, as well as your personality, which are the three dimensions in creative processes. But then these networks that regulates your skills, you can have a fatigue in them. I mean, I think that the common denominator among several of the creative persons that I know is that they have this drive, like a hypomanic drive, with a lot of energy that they direct towards. They focus their energy on one thing, which is music or painting or whatever. And the process, the dynamics in the process, when you have this crescendo finalized in some sort of performance in front of an audience, as Christian mentioned, nobody can understand the experience of standing in front of a huge audience when you have performed, and then the vacuum that you somehow experience afterwards, or where you have to go from the top level and go down into some sort of empty vacuum. That's a tremendous effort and a challenge. I think that a lot of people to down-regulate your system, they use alcohol and sex and whatever to release this kind of tremendous mental control that has been all through the process. Otherwise, you fail if you start dysregulating at an earlier phase, right? So one has to consider this dynamic process, and I think this is something for managers to consider when it comes to musicians, artists, etc. That you need to assist them in handling this process, because and also when you are at the top level performing, and then you deteriorate in your capacity over time maybe, and you don't have the same audience anymore, you don't get the same attention. How to handle that also when you have had this kind of star? There is something in called the celebrity syndrome, which a lot of famous people, beautiful men and women experience, and when you get into this phase where you're passed over time, so to speak, that's a huge challenge as well to handle, and that can also lead to depressions, etc. So it's not black and white, I would say, and it's not complicated. It's complex, the whole dynamic.
And can I ask you something? All three of you.
One thing, dopamine is something related to motivation. It's something that is related to underscoring what is important. But it's more biochemistry. It's not just merely the dopamine effect. You have it's a tremendous effort to perform. And I have experience of patients, for instance, performing when I've been giving lectures, and all of them afterwards they call me up and they are very low, and they say, oh, I did a terrible performance, I'm sorry about just this kind of mood swings that they.
Typical Tchaikovsky.
They are exhausted. That's it.
Yeah.
So you need to learn how to handle these kind of energy dynamics back and forth. How to go into from the fifth gear back to the first gear, or even reverse.
Yes, and Hamid, also one thing that I wanted to try to communicate to the listeners, who many are musicians themselves, we live now where this syndrome, with you said about celebrity problem. Now, when everyone is, there are no concerts. There are no. These musicians are used to showing themselves, getting audiences applauding them, and there's been nothing. So it must be very difficult. For me, I think I felt very uncomfortable the first 2-3 months, but then, funnily enough, for me it's been like fantastic, because also I haven't had these ups and downs so much. I have been really didn't have to wind up for a concert, so that was interesting too.
So that's also an example of having cognitive flexibility, which is a cognitive domain among creative persons, that you can use this situation with the isolation, etc., and learn about yourself. You keep climbing the tree of knowledge, so to speak.
Yeah.
So parts of being a creative person is that you are cognitive flexible. You can, from being on the road constantly performing, you and having 30 years of experience of that, you can bounce into being at Valudden and use that time and the experience. And that's an example of your cognitive flexibility.
I
It
wish
must
that
be. I was
I wish
thinking
that
about.
they
Adaptability.
I was thinking about athlete. Pia, do you have an experience in? I mean, athletes. You know, high performing artists, musicians. There must be some same issues. I mean, do you
Well,
have an experience in this?
Well, the connection I see is, I mean, some of the traits you need to become a top musician is exactly the same as a top athlete, I'd say. I mean, Hamid talked about discipline. That's one thing. Talent is obvious, but I mean, also some physical traits you need, like Christian, for example, with wind instruments, you can't just choose any wind instrument and it suits your body. You have lips more suitable for one or the other, and such things, which you can compare to athletes. Not anyone could do any sport, of course. I mean,
Yes, an oboist yourself, you know that it's only not only the music,
No.
the reading. It's very physical.
fine motor skills.
Mm.
Like that. Also, a lot of skills that you can always, of course, train, but there's also a sort of genetic predisposition, I'd say.
Yeah, great. We're running slowly. Time runs so fast. We have passed the time now. But Hamid, can you just give a quick while we start the end music, the last little thing, which is a total up, by the way, and Tchaikovsky. I mean, I cannot. I mean, for me, it's Mozart and Tchaikovsky, the two greatest, and Tchaikovsky's way of going there. I mean, to the heaven is amazing. And but Hamid, just a little tip to people who are one last tip before we end to people in this COVID situations, musicians.
Well, I think that we all should embrace the path of self-awareness and understanding the patterns that we have, which are individual. But based on that, adding skills, not just in performing through an instrument, but actually caring for the instrument, which is not merely the instrument itself, but me and my mind. So I think that's my advice.
Pia, any final advice for us, creative people?
But take care, keep distance. Well, what's more to say in these days? It isn't over.
It isn't over now.
It isn't over. And we're releasing this fantastic recording tonight. I have checked. It isn't up yet, actually.
It is already out?
No, Spotify is a bit slow, but I will post the link as soon as it's out there. But let's just listen to the last few bars of this Tchaikovsky. Bravo! Thank you, music
Thank you,
lovers.
everyone.
See you
Thank
all
you.
next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pia. Thank you, Hamid. Thank you, Roland.